Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 5th day of December 2023. Welcome to our show today. I'm glad that everybody tuned in yesterday, and it was a very interesting show. There was a lot of good comments out there, and I want to appreciate every single comment that was out there. It was real interesting to see how things kind of shook out yesterday, it was funny, but we have more to come on this whole situation. And today we're going to go into Tatar Tuesday as well as with John Tater. And then at 10 o'clock, Courtenay Turner, which is real history, which I really enjoy. So before we go into there, I just want to make sure that everybody out there knows I talk to everyone, whether people approve of who I talk to or they disapprove of who I talk to. I'm going to talk to people on both sides of the aisle. And that's the MO here. This is the only way to bring the nation together and also to uncover the truth. So I don't think we should be afraid to run into situations that we know that maybe there's a problem there, because you know what? The truth comes out. You just gotta be a little patient, and that's okay. So anyhow, I'm going to bring on John Tater. Anybody that was watching yesterday knows exactly what I'm talking about. So at any rate, morning, John. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Oh, where's my? You know what? I haven't done this in a while. Hold on.
Well, you lost it, huh? Misplaced.
I'm in a plucky mood this morning because I can't say what I want to say about it. But yay, Tatar Tuesday. I've had a plethora of morons and stupid communications around me for the past couple of days. So I'm just going to kind of try to put this into a situation of being mildly amused at stupidity, right? And or dumb questions and or whatever. So at any rate, not that all questions are dumb, but there's some that are dumb that people ask just to try to poke you. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. It's funny. I just get amused by it, and you guys got to take stuff in stride. You know, this world cannot be taken that seriously, and I truly mean that, because you know what? God is in charge of everything that's going on around us. You can't escape that. And what we think we know, because clearly everybody thinks we know everything and everybody's the hero of their own story. And I mean, that's just the way human beings are. But the reality is that we probably don't know 1/10 of 1,000,000% of what is really out there, where God's giving us a short window in a short piece of time to see what he wants us to know. And nobody is anybody else's project. It's always God's. And we're here to support each other and to try to be a help to each other as brothers and sisters should. But one thing we shouldn't be is sniping at each other. And or even if we disagree, we can disagree and say, okay, we disagree with this. But there's a dynamic going on out there right now, shall I say, which I don't know. There's so much Fed activity out there. It's not even funny. But you have to kind of let things play out just a little bit sometimes, because we can all sit there and point our fingers at things that we know to be true or we believe to be true, which may or may not be true. But when people talk enough, they generally reveal who they really are. And so the fine art of listening functions for two things. First of all, there's an awesomeness about a listening heart that can heal people's souls, down to the core. And all people have to do is listen. I do it with the horses all the time. I just stand there next to them, and they know they're not alone. That's what you do as a horse whisperer. It's not that you go in there, guns a-blazing and acting like an idiot. You're going to do what I'm telling you to do. It's like you just stand there quietly, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're a friend? You're just willing to sit here with me? And the same thing with people. Sometimes that listening heart is amazing. And the other thing that listening does to people is it gives people a chance to really talk. And whether they're good or bad, they will inevitably out themselves, which is really interesting. And you can make the decision for yourself, and you don't even have to say anything. They will do it. They will do it. They will do it organically, and that's a much better way. And hopefully, at the end of the day, people are not our enemies. Their bad choices are clearly, with principalities and powers driving the bus on that one. But when they expose their true intentions and hearts, it can be a very good thing and a very sad thing when people are exposing things that are negative, but it has to happen. And the only way that we go through that is by talking to people, all people, whether we agree or disagree with them. And sometimes not correcting them, let them go on for a while. It's a skill to zip it and listen. So with that said, at the right times, there's a time and a place for everything. There's a season for everything, as God says. So anyhow, what's the song today?
Before we get into the song, since you were talking about your experiences over the last few days, I will give you a little bit of my background. My thinking process is that this physical world that we live in is the 1%. The 99% is the spiritual world.
I agree with that.
That we should be paying attention to. And that brings out what goes on in the 1%. The 1% is controlled by, according to my readings and understanding, Satan. People call him Satan, but it's the true Hebrew word is Satan. That's the opposition of who we are and what we do. And so the people that believe that they live in the 1% and it's this is the 1% that it means anything or everything, they're really missing out on what the world is all about, of what their existence on this planet is all about. Because it's not the 1%, it's the 99%.
I'm going to show you something that you're going to find really interesting here. It might take me just a minute to do this, but this is pretty amazing and gutsy, shall I say? But if you want to play your song, I'll see if I can try to. I see what day this is. Yeah, hang on a minute. Noise here in just a minute.
You want me to play first, or you want to find?
Well, I'm gonna mess up your song because I'm actually clicking through some things online. It's real hard for me to pull things up online real smoothly because sometimes you got to search around just a little bit. But here, I want to show you what President Trump came face to face. You don't think that Satan is operative in this world, and you can look it up. In West Michigan, we have this Satanist group in West Michigan, and I'm sorry, Satan's a jerk. He's an absolute low-life jerk, and his minions are as stupid as he is. So this was in the Iowa Capitol to greet President Trump. Well, he goes to Iowa. I want everybody to look at this and say, I think that things are never as we see them.
Absolutely.
And the smart people that are out there, like say General Flynn, Admiral Rogers, President Trump, I'm sick of the bitching about these guys. I really am. And they don't always make me real happy every minute of the day either. They do some things once in a while that I go, what the living hell? Okay. But that doesn't mean that I'll question shortly the situation, but I know their character and that they're trying, and certainly that God is using all of us, whether we're perfect or we're derping around, which we quite often do, to achieve his plans. But I'm going to say right now that Kim Reynolds is a piece of crap that allowed this in the Capitol to deface that capital of Iowa, and she should be ashamed of herself entirely. And then one more thing. What happened to separation of church and state? And now they put this crap out there. Excuse me, is this just only when it's convenient for everyone? And then let's go further. We've got Baphomet here at the Amway Grand Plaza in Grand Rapids. Good luck with that, everybody. I think we should start be questioning everything, because this is not one of those things that you just go, oh, I guess it's just a nothing. What's wrong with this? There's a lot wrong with this. And we need to be questioning this kind of crap and praying to God. Go out and pray for Kim Reynolds today, the person who allowed that altar to Satan be in the Capitol in Iowa. This is not a joke anymore. These people are not, this is not, there's no game here. This is not a game that's being played. We have kids that are being trafficked and all this. How do you think they're being trafficked? They're not being trafficked by people that really want to see the right thing done in life. It's evil, and we're dealing with pure evil. And either you're on the side of good or you're on the side of evil. There's no middle ground there. So anyhow, I had to bring that up today because I'm like, Kim Reynolds, you should be ashamed of yourself. And the state of Iowa should move her sorry behind for not standing up against people who are putting you in shackles to their satanic, their evil agenda that they've got going on. And I mean, I don't think you have to be too smart to see what's going on here, quite honestly. You know, that you could be a derp, you could be a total derp, which I am on a regular basis, I'm sure. But it's like, we should be able to see, as a child could see, that this is evil. And
where's the outcry from the public?
You want to hear a story that I want to tell that I could not believe my eyes. So I went and saw Adam Sandler a few years ago at the Van Andel Arena. And I always thought he was pretty funny guy, right? And so I'm like, yeah, we'll go listen to this. But most of these performers aren't worth the air they breathe. But I'm like, he's a funny guy. I'm going to go see him. So I went to see him. And he got up there. And I'm going to tell you what he said. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not only did he have the red hood on and some of the things, he had the same backdrop that Obama had in his portrait. And I was like, talk about symbolism. You'd have to be a total idiot not to pick up on this. And then he says, I kid you not, I heard it with my own ears. He said, it's just amazing. He said, I watch my daughters take showers who are 12 years old. And I watch them wash things up. And he said, as they're washing and they're scrubbing, he said, I'm looking at them and saying, oh, don't erase that cute little vagina. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell kind of a dad would make a comment? And furthermore, how come all the guys in the auditorium didn't get up there and literally beat the shit out of him or kick him out of there or put him in cuffs? You know, not that I'm inciting riots, but I know enough guys that if they saw a 12-year-old girl being talked to like that by her father, they should have. You know what I did? I walked out.
Good. That's what you should have done.
I'm not listening to this crap at all anymore, not now or ever. But I mean, people, when you hear something wrong, you have got to do something. You don't just sit there quietly as they're just beating you across the face. You either got to get in court and do something, or you leave, you walk out, you do not participate. And, you know, I'm not advocating anybody beating the hell out of anybody. Okay. I'm just saying it's amazing to me that no one reacted. I'm glad they didn't, because they shouldn't. We should not be provoked. That's what they want. The FBI, they want us to react. You react.
The reaction should have been, they should have emptied the theater
immediately. You're listening to somebody who admitted being a perv to his 12-year-old daughters. Yeah. And nobody left. And I went across the street, and I went down and I sat, and I had a bunch of guests in there. And I'm like, I'm not listening to this crap. So I left. I went and got a glass of wine and sat there by myself. And no, I guess my husband went with me because I was like, nope, I'm done. And so left and went across the street. And we went and had a glass of wine. And one of my friends that was there came out. And she said, I can't believe you were the only one in this entire auditorium that had the guts to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Why?
Why would you pretend that this is okay?
Yep.
So anyhow, back to the story. We got a lot to talk about, so sorry.
Well, people need to understand that the planet we live on is the 1% of what's really going on around us. And that 1% is controlled by Satan. That's all there. If you understand that, you can deal with the world. If you don't understand that, then you have a problem because it's evil everywhere, and you don't understand that. Yeah, it's because it's supposed to be.
If you're a good person, you're not going to fit in. And as the Bible says, we are a peculiar people. We will never fit in, and that's a good thing.
We're not supposed to fit in.
Right.
We're supposed to be here to learn. We're supposed to be here to overcome the obstacles. You're going to fall in with a Republican Party, which is a joke and a disgrace to this nation. Just because they're selling you the ideals that they say that they are. They don't do a thing. They don't fight anything. They just sit there. They're a placeholder at best. Yep.
So there you go. Okay, give us a happy song here after Donna goes off on a tangent.
I don't know if it's a happy song, but it's a song nonetheless. Well, I don't care if it rains or freezes, as long as I have my plastic Jesus riding on the dashboard of my car. Through all trials and tribulations, we will travel in every nation. Me and my plastic Jesus will go far. No, I don't care if it's dark and scary, long as I have magnetic Mary riding on the dashboard of my car. I feel I'm protected and free. I got the whole damn Holy Family riding on the dashboard of my car. Plastic Jesus, riding on the dashboard of my car. Through all trials and tribulations, we will travel in every nation. Me and my plastic Jesus will go far. No, I don't care if it rains or freezes, as long as I have my plastic Jesus riding on the dashboard of my car. But I think he'll have to go. His magnet stops my radio, and if we have a wreck, it'll cause a scar. How I see he's losing power, getting weaker every hour, slide from the dashboard of my car. But I know what steps to take. I'll nail him there for old time's sake. Nail him to the dashboard of my car. Besides, I paid a lot of lettuce for this genuine Christian fetish, riding on the dashboard of my car. Comes in pink and pleasant, glows in the dark cause it's iridescent. Take it when you go and travel far. Plastic Jesus, riding on the dashboard of my car. Through all trials and tribulations, we will travel in every nation. Me and my plastic Jesus will go far. Get yourself a sweet Madonna, dressed in rhinestone, sitting on a pedestal of abalone shell. Going 90, I ain't scary, cause I got the Virgin Mary assuring me that I won't go to hell. Plastic Jesus, riding on the dashboard of my car. Through all trials and tribulations, we will travel in every nation. Me, my plastic Jesus will go far.
Awesome. You ever see the big butter Jesus? That big they've got a couple of big statues around.
Well, I've seen one in Ukraine, actually.
In Ukraine?
Yeah, Ukraine has a big one on the top of a hill. They probably call it a mountain.
I know that Brazil has one.
Brazil has one, yeah. There's
Yeah.
a few of them out there.
Yeah. So,
Anyway,
well, it's better than what they've got in Iowa. You know, it's like, there you go. I mean, this is so nutty. There's no words to describe it. Yeah. So
well,
what are we talking about today?
the words to describe it is that it's evil.
It's evil.
On earth. That's what the earth is. This earth is evil. It's supposed to be. It's part of our learning lessons. Who you and I are, why we are here, what's the purpose? It's our the opposing party of us. We are the good. They're supposed to be the bad, and we're supposed to, it's the yin and the yang. It's the man and the woman.
God gives us a choice.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. It's all about choice. We have a choice to do whatever.
The Bible says that I've created the weapon fit for destruction, and it's pretty interesting. But most people don't get in and really study it to know what it really says. So they do. It's like the news that people take like verses out of context and sound bites and such. But it's a good thing, everybody needs to get in there and study for themselves, read the source documents, and then you'll find out what it really says, and such. So.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to speak about today. Things to do when you are tapped by the evil government, because the government is evil. Anybody that hasn't figured that out yet. And it's not against the blacks and the whites and the Chinese and the Mexicans and
women and men and all that nonsense.
Women and all that nonsense. It's about the people against the government. The government's the evil. It's always been that way. In fact, Washington said it was evil. He says it, how did he put it? The fire, a welcome fire that's a fearful fire. Government's a fearful fire, something like that. I don't remember his exact quote, but he was, back then he said the government is evil. And that's why we established the Constitution. And that's why they've been, since the 1700s, trying to get rid of the Constitution in America. They want a war over here. They want a civil war. They want people to uprise. They want to be able to, because after chaos comes control. So we don't want to go there. We can do it without.
Well,
go ahead.
That's the point, is that, with the J6 Fedsurrection that was created by the FBI, the feds, watch what we have around us. And if someone is trying to provoke you to stupid action instead of a lawful action, or to react, whether you're reacting out of anger in your mouth, and it's okay. We all get angry at stuff. All right. And we've got it, but you better know who your friends are to talk to. Yeah. We both get angry. Right. But
I'll get angry.
Yeah, you do.
No, I never get angry. I never get angry at anybody.
Well,
I get even, but I never get angry.
Well, there are times where I'm annoyed, like seriously, boss level annoyed with people. But the point being is that you can be angry, but that doesn't mean you react. And you don't let your emotions drive you. If your emotions are driving your actions or reactions, you're out of control, and Satan's got a hold of you and shaking you really good. It's like you have to stay, you have to stay with a cool head under all situations. Let it out if you have to. If you're mad about something, don't hold it in, because it's going to come out one way or the other. It's like holding Jell-O through your fingers, right? And so, but find a productive way to let it out. So like if you're angry and you got to go, out in the car and cuss everybody out, by yourself, go ahead and do that. And then come back in and shake it off and get back to having a smile on your face. Right. But there's, or get a plan, sit there just quietly and say, well, what are we going to do about this? And then get a plan to actually change something or make a difference. And sometimes those two things are together. I mean, I have certainly had some serious discussions with my horses, who became my therapy horse at that moment, when I'm all kinds of annoyed at something stupid somebody did. And then I can leave leave that situation, or if I'm driving in the car or something, and come back and have the ability to shake it off and get back in the game and approach it with a smile, So and try to be or just unwavering. But our emotions driving us is toxic. It's poisonous.
Well, it has to do with the universe talking to us. It has to do with how the 99% out there is responding or pushing our buttons to make us react one way or the other. If we are reactive to what's going on the earth, then we have a problem, because it is a negative behavior, and that reaction causes other negative behaviors to occur sometime in our life, somewhere else in our life. We want to be proactive. We want to do things ahead of the game, to be ahead of what's going on. So we are in control and not reaction to what they're in control of. We're not in their game. We're not in their sphere. We're in the 99% spiritual sphere, where we have a proactive attitude and we can handle those problems. And if you do that, then you won't be so reactive to the little actions that happen to you. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about today. Things to do when the government taps you on the shoulder and says, okay, do something. For example, somebody gets a ticket. What do you do with that ticket? Do you respond to it? Yeah, you should be responding to it immediately. You shouldn't be putting it in a drawer and hoping it goes away. Because it's not going to go away. The fines are going to get worse, not better. So if you are proactive with it and you take that step forward to fix the problem at its core level, you will be better off than if you let it fester and become a serious issue. So what happens, and I hear people call me all the time, I got a certified letter. I came yesterday, and I says, well, what does it say? I don't know. I didn't pick it up. Should I pick it up? Of course you should. You don't know what the letter said. They might be wishing you a happy birthday. Of course, it generally doesn't come certified, but you never know. So you got to pick up the letter and find out what the letter says in order for you to be proactive with the letter. If you don't, and it happens to be a summons in the court and you don't show up, then now they put a bench warrant out for you. Now you got two battles to fight. You got to fight the bench warrant that's put out for you, and then you got to fight whatever's on the letter. So why wouldn't you take the letter and resolve it at the core level, at the base level? And that's what a lot of people don't do. If you get a certified letter, you go and you find out what it says and you answer it. And you always answer. Letters from the Internal Revenue, these patriots out there would say, oh, ignore it, throw it away. No. You answer every single letter. Because when you answer the letter, you're, number one, you're not trying to hide. You're out there and you're ready to face the music. And the music generally is probably only one phrase, one stanza, one little bit. It's not a big sheet. It's not a big orchestra of music. It's just a little part that you have to answer. So you answer it first. Then you put the ball back in their court and you see how they're going to respond to it. No matter what that is, you'd never ignore a letter from the government, from the Internal Revenue, which doesn't exist, from the FBI, which doesn't exist, or the CIA, which doesn't exist. You always answer the letters, and then they can't come back at you and say, well, you've been trying to hide, and you're doing this, and you're a devious person. No, I'm out here. I'm in the public. Come and talk to me. You want to talk to me? Come talk to me. And take care of those problems. Other people what will they do? They'll run out and get an attorney because they're afraid. Oh, get an attorney to do it for us. No. Do it yourself. First of all, you know my attitude with attorneys, but we won't.
No, I never picked up on that, John.
Or you run to a friend who generally probably has the wrong advice for you. Oh, don't do anything with it, or throw it away or burn it. No, don't do that either, because that's not that. Friends sometimes mean well, but they don't always have the right answer.
Yeah. Not, and people mean well quite often. They mean well, but that doesn't mean that they have the right. This is something too, is that you got to listen to God and you've got to trust yourself. Each one of us is different, individual. And, people need to realize that they've got to turn to God, because people, no matter how well-intentioned they are, quite often interject themselves in, and they don't have the same vantage point that you have. So it's great and easy to give people advice on things, but the only one you really should be listening to is God Almighty. And, if somebody gives you advice that's helpful, that's fine. But there may be a time where you're doing what everybody tells you to do is wrong, when it is the right thing. And that's important. You can stand alone. It's okay, because you're never alone.
Government's entire attitude is to keep you frightened.
Should I tell everybody what happened to me last week with that call, or 2 weeks ago?
You certainly could.
I could. This is appropriate. So I get a call. So I have a guardianship and conservatorship on my mom. Okay, she's struggling a little bit. She's older, right? And make sure that she's well taken care of and such, because I actually care. So I got a letter, a few months ago, that said I had to make an appointment to see, to update things. And they wanted to do a wellness check and such. And so I responded twice to it, and I got no responses back. I got a letter and I responded to it. No responses back whatsoever. And so this gal calls me and says, "Why didn't you respond?" And I said, "I did." And she's like, "Well, we gotta get this handled." And I said, "Why the hell do you care now? You didn't respond to me, and I'm not going to chase you down to do your job." And so I've got a life, and it's not for me to be out there, running around making sure I didn't say it this way, but our idiot government's doing their job when they can't. She's like, "Oh, well, now get this." She's like, "This is an organization that says that they care about people who are our elder population." She's like, "Well, the position was empty for a couple of months now." And I said, "So you're expecting me to believe that you give a damn about anyone when the department has an open position, and tell me that you care?" And she didn't know what to say to me. I'm like, "I am busy right now. And if you want to call me back Monday, the burden is on you at this moment in time, because you don't care. You never cared. Nobody in the department cared, because they didn't care to even fill the position. So why are you telling me? What are you going to do? This is like leaving a puppy on a doorstep somewhere and telling me that you care, and then show up 2 months later. Is he fed? Is he this? Is he that?" And I'm like, you don't do this to people. If you actually care, you're there around the clock every day whenever the need arises. This is a problem I have with our entire social services and mental health organization. They want to come and tell us how much they care. They do not give a damn. They're all getting paid for it. And they only show up when they've got an extortion situation going on, because they want money or justify their pathetic jobs. And, it's like, as soon as they can sit there and point their finger at all of us. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do the other thing. But whatever they recommend, they're never there to help pick up the pieces of what they wreck. And I had a situation years ago with my special needs daughter, and this person came in and wanted to do a check, and I said, "Well, that's fine, but I'm going to have my attorney here, because I don't trust any of you people." And so she comes in, and she goes to my daughter, who's very mentally ill. And she's like, "We're going to walk over here, and we're going to make your mom sit over there." Now, this is something that we've had care for, tremendous care for a number of years, and threatened me in my own home. And so I went and I sat. I'm like, "Okay, I'll play your game for a little bit," because I knew how this was going to end. She pulls a test out, and she starts talking to my daughter, and my daughter is just terrified. And she's looking at me, absolutely terrified of this woman who she's not understanding what's going on here at all. And it took 10 minutes for my daughter to absolutely be so upset that she couldn't even function with her dumbass test that she gave her. And the threat to me in my home as the little pathetic, non-elected cop that she was. And so I just sat there and I watched. I'm like, you're so smart. You created the situation here. What you gonna do? So my daughter, she looked at me and she's in a panic watching this meltdown. She's looking around like, I thought you were the expert here. And she starts looking around like this, and she closed all of her stuff. And she said, I've never done this in my life. She said, I'm not giving this test. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you caught up with this a little bit instead of looking at parents like we're the enemy of our own freaking children. And so my daughter gets on my lap and she is just shaking. She's so upset and crying. And I'm just like, so I'm putting the pieces back together because she walked out within 20 minutes and left me to pick up the pieces of what this organization within our government did to my daughter. So I sat there and, I got her calmed down and such. And I just put her head in my neck and I just held her until she, I probably had to sit there and hold her for about, an hour and a half before she could even open her eyes and look into this world, since this wonderful expert who came in here to kick us in the face. And so at any rate, she left and she's like, I will be your best expert witness that you've ever had. She said, I can't believe what you guys go through on a daily basis just to take care of another human being because you care so much. And I'm like, I'll never quit. It's like, I'm her mother. And you kick a mama bear and either see the resolve of a mama bear. Mama bears don't quit. We protect our cubs. And that was kind of interesting, but in a very horrible way. But we ended up going in front of a judge because it was a guardianship thing. We were just getting a guardianship as she got to be older, right? And this woman did step up, and she stepped up in front of the judge and she said, I've never seen a better situation for someone who is so mentally ill. She said, these people do an amazing job. And of course, then we didn't have any problems. But the predisposition is to see us from within the government, is to see us Americans as the enemy. And that's part of the problem. And then they go home. After they wreck families, they go home and they don't have to deal. So any of you little social worker, justice warriors that are out there, you live somebody's life that you're out there to target and see how well you do and see how well you're willing to stay. Or do you just wreck it and then go home, and never show up again to actually help? Because that's what our government's been doing. It's been doing it for years. So anyhow, those are a couple of my run-ins I've had from these unelected idiots in the seat. They don't care. Could keep less.
Well, but they understand that and you care and that you are not going to put up with it. And therefore, when they run on, you're an obstacle to them. So
big time.
They will just say, next, go to the next person that they find that doesn't have that power and doesn't have that knowledge and ability to fight back.
That's the MO of a thief. They look for the weak. And then they go, that's exactly what it is. It's a thief's mentality.
That's what the government is all about.
They're thieves.
People haven't figured that out yet, especially after 20, 30, 40 years living on this planet. They are asleep. Government isn't here to help you. Government is our adversary.
Absolutely.
So we have to treat them as such. But also remember, this brings us back to Norton versus Shelby County. Somebody from the Health and Human Services would walk in my door. I'd ask them, would you please prove your de jure status to your de jure office? And of course, they're not going to know what that means. And I'm going to tell them at that point in time, I think you need to resign your commission or your job because you really don't know what you're doing. And you shouldn't be coming here trying to tell me something. When you get up to snuff, when you get the knowledge that you need, then you can come and talk to me. Otherwise, I don't want to hear from you.
Right.
And that would eliminate a lot of the nonsense that's going on now, a lot of the nonsense that would go on in probate court. Families in general are not helpful for each other. They're all it must be the almighty dollar or something. I don't know. People want to get that last nickel out of grandma or grandpa, and they want to have more nickels than their other siblings or other relatives of their family. So they create a problem, because probate court shouldn't have any of these people in there. People shouldn't be going to probate court and fighting over a will. For God's sakes, you destroy your whole family situation with your siblings because you're battling over $100,000 or $200,000.
It's greedy. If you were that good, go make it yourself. Why try to mine off of other people and strip the carcass of the dead? That's what it comes. It's like a grave robber mentality. This is stupid.
The sad part about it is $100,000 or $200,000, even $500,000. How long does that last generally? And in the process of getting that $500,000, you have destroyed your family.
Yes.
You have destroyed everything else around you. Without family, money's meaningless without family. You can have all the money and the cars and the boats and everything in the world, but without family, you got nothing. And so people don't realize that until after it's too late, and they have dragged everybody through probate. And the problem with probate is the people that win in probate are the attorneys and the judges. And anybody can figure out otherwise, they're stupid. You may get a pittance of what you are claiming, but the attorneys and the judges get the balance of it.
And to that point, I think the next thing that should be brought into this is, who is your family? For everybody that's out there, who is your family? My family is anyone on this planet that stands for God's good purposes, that are willing to serve God. And, sometimes your family, that's your spirit family, that is committed to God Almighty, is much stronger of a connection than the family you're born into. But you don't abandon either of them when we're here to serve. And it's not based on who you like or your little clubs that we make up, the little cliques we make up so we can all sit around and agree with us with our opinions. It's the people we disagree with as well, that sometimes they need us more than the people that agree with us.
Okay, so getting back to the summons for court, what do you do with that? What do you do with
I call John Tater is what I do.
Well, a lot of people do, and I don't have a problem with that, helping you out. But if you don't know what's in the letter to begin with, I can't help you. I don't know what the battle is, what the fight is, and I can't help you. But if you're summoned to court, what do? First of all, you got to find out what the complaint is against you. And then whenever you go to court, before you get to court, you answer the complaint in writing. You always write letters. Emails are nice and quick and all that, but emails always can be, I didn't get it, I misread it, it went into spam. I mean, there's 1,000 different reasons that somebody could say they haven't gotten your email. So you never write an email. I mean, you could, as a precursor to your regular letter, but you always write a letter, because the letter can't be ignored, especially if you send it certified. You got the certified copy, you got the letter. Now you got a document that you can use in court. If you don't have that, if you only have an email, emails can be misread. Telephone calls are worse, because, I never got a telephone call from you. And how do you prove that you did make a phone call at that particular period of time?
Call Roger, screenshot it.
Well, all of that can work, but then they're going to say, well, what did you say in the conversation? I mean, maybe you just called them and gave them your phone number. So the best way to do it is to write a letter. And when you write a letter to that in response to whatever, or a document in response to whatever has been the tapping on your shoulder. Remember, God's tapping you on the shoulder, saying, what are you going to do about it? And now what are you going to do about it? If you're going to postpone it or put it in the drawer, it's going to get worse. So you got to get out of your comfort zone. And that's the only way you're going to learn anyway, is to get out of your comfort zone and take a stand. And I don't mean be stupid about it, but take a stand. Find out what the arguments are, and counteract the arguments if there are reasons to counteract them. We have to be willing to stand. Once we are all willing to stand, or a majority of the people are willing to stand, we will turn this world around and make it the proper way, and we'll turn government around. But we have to be willing to stand and get our points heard and make our republic strong again. Otherwise, we are going to continue to flounder around in the stupidity that we have going on around us, in the evilness. The evilness doesn't bother me. I've not been challenged for a long, long time. I wonder why. I wonder why. Because when they challenge me, I go after them. Because I've never sat behind and never not answered a letter. Even Internal Revenue, I went to every single audit. I wrote every single letter in response. And now I got them in a box. They're not bothering me anymore. They did bother me for a while, and every time they bothered me, I bothered them back. You throw the ball back in their court. Now what are you going to do about it? And eventually they realize that, we're not making any headway with this guy. We're spending a lot of our resources, and we're not going anywhere. And so they want to try to find somebody that they can pick on, somebody that they can scare. The whole idea is that they're going to continue to try to frighten you. And if you go down that road, you will get further and further into your shell, and you will not be able to get out of it. So gotta stand brave, gotta stand tall. Now, answer your letter. Summons you to court. Gotta find out what the summons is, and you gotta respond in writing. You've got to answer their summons, answer the speeding ticket, answer the ordinance complaint with the proper arguments, with the proper, and so that brings us to the final conclusion. Don't wait until you're being pinched. Start learning now. Learn the process.
And that's why we're here on Tatar Tuesdays, to teach you the process. Right.
Exactly. Learn the laws that are on our side. The laws have always been on our side. They've never been on the government side. They are for us. But the problem is we don't learn them and we don't know them. And as I've told my kids when I taught school back in Stevenson High School years ago, taught government and American history, I told them, hey, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. They're not made up. You can't call on the Constitution to protect you because you don't even know what it says. So how can you ask the Constitution? How can you waive the Second Amendment if you don't understand what the Second Amendment is all about, or the First Amendment? And when you can apply that amendment to your situation, because you can apply all of them, and the 10th Amendment, which says we have the power, not the governments. It gives us the power, but you got to know how to apply it. So that's what we do here. That's what this is all about. That's what Donna has graciously brought me on board to talk about. How do we protect our rights from the evil 1% of government? Because we know the 99%, which is the spiritual world, and we have control of that. We got to know how to deal with it.
You got to run towards the fire sometimes. That's That's the way that you solve problems, is you don't run away from them. That just makes them stack up in bigger problems. You got to deal with them and get them out of the way, and get them out of the way quickly so that you can deal with the next problem. And but running doesn't serve you for anything, ever.
That's right. Running is not going to be successful, number one. Number two, it'll just procrastinate the agony.
Well, you can't outrun God, because honestly, all of the, it's like God, all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. You can't outrun God. If you got a tough situation, I'm pretty extra sure he's got you in boot camp to learn something, so that the next time something comes up, you'll know how to deal with it. It's a learning process. So it's not something to be afraid of.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
We're not here to have our boat and sail on the lake and do nothing but sail all day long. We're here to learn. We're here to learn.
Play golf all day long?
Could I?
I could not. I couldn't play golf.
I'm not sure I could play golf at all.
Besides, I suck at it. I took private lessons for 3 years, and I'm like, I like to go hit golf balls once in a while, but I don't really enjoy it. So I'm like, I'd rather bandage up a horse or something like that. I mean, everybody's got their thing. Not that I've got anything against golf or not, but I couldn't just play all day long, whether that's that or, anything. I need to be doing something. I got to be working. Otherwise, I feel no purpose.
I used to race a boat called the Flying Dutchman. If you've never heard of those, sometime you get on the internet and look them up.
All right. Accepted.
They're a two-man racing boat with one guy on the trapeze, and it's a very light hull and very massive sail mounts. And I saw a movie called Sydney Hobart 18-Footers, and I got so enamored with a trapeze boat that I went and I bought a Flying Dutchman. I never sailed before. I mean, I sailed with Wayne State Sailing Club about 2 or 3 times, but I didn't know squat about sailing. So I bought this boat, and I went out on the water, and I tell you how many times I capsized, you'd be laughing. But I finally got involved in enough that I could race a little bit, so I started racing. Well, I actually won the upside down trophy. That means I capsized in several times.
Oh, that's fun.
That didn't stop me from racing, and it was a learning experience. It was something that you had to learn how to do. It wasn't something that you could just get on like a motorboat and start the motor and go down the road, to go down the river or the lake. You had to learn how to sail with the wind and how to gauge the wind and where it was coming from. That was a learning experience. And many times I learned the hard way, capsizing. But hey, that was
okay, here we go. Now everybody needs to see what you're talking about here, because I've never heard of it. But I'm not in the sailing community either. I'm in the boring community of shoveling horse manure. That's what I do. So. Is that it?
That's it. See that guy hanging out on the trapeze? He's got
counterweight
hanging from him to keep that boat upright. And if he's not doing it right, you're upside down.
Dal 2007, la classe FD italiana è composta da una quarantina di equipaggi, tutti velisti molto seri.
Yes, our boats here.
There you go. That's a beautiful picture. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's fine. You, sir, are a savage.
I used to love that. I mean, my sister, when she was younger and I was younger, I mean, this was back in the early 70s, we would put on our wetsuits and go out and dodge the ice cubes out on the lake in March. When it was freezing cold and we shouldn't be out there, but we were out there anyway. Sailing bug bit us and we were out there and couldn't wait to get out in the weather.
There's so many fun things to enjoy on this earth. There really are.
Absolutely. Get out of your shell and experience what this world has to offer, because it's got a lot to offer.
Find purpose, whatever it may be. I mean, just because I may not have the same purpose or John or anybody doesn't mean that you can't find your happiness in whatever it is that God put in your heart. You know, you got to follow him and he'll take you to what you really love. So what'd you like doing when you were 7 years old?
What did I do when I was 7 years old?
Yeah. What did you like?
Well, you know, my dad, there was a lot of stuff going on when I was 7, but more or less when I was 10 or so, I started playing accordion when I was 10 years old, maybe a little earlier, maybe 9. And I loved it, and I practiced hard. And there were many days that it was nice outside, and I should have been outside playing baseball or whatever, but I was practicing my music. So that was one of the things. Boy Scouts was another. I mean, Boy Scouts was great. I stayed with that all the way up until I was 20. Got my Eagle and so on and so forth, and did a whole lot of stuff with Scouts. That was a great experience.
That's really cool.
A lot of stuff going on. My dad was always into buildings, so we were always doing something, siding a house or cleaning a house or putting cabinets in. Pretty young, doing electrical. When I was 16 years old, I wired my own house, the family house that we lived in for a few years.
Wow.
The city electrician would come over and say, do it this way, this way, this way. And then he'd go away and I'd do the wiring like he wanted. And I'd come back and he'd look, okay, this is good, but this isn't good. And I'd fix it and change it. So that's the kind of stuff I was doing. I was always engaged in something.
Right.
Then I had a band, and that band played for years and years and years. We played all kinds of music for all kinds of occasions. We were called the Raven Blue, and we played weddings and banquets and parties, and played for the Michigan State Police actually a couple of times. So
really, that's cool.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on.
Oh,
never a dull moment in my life. Never.
It's always something to do, especially when you're a savage. You can always find something to do that's a new level of savagery.
That's right. That's right.
So,
but you got to get out of your comfort zone in order to do that. If you're sitting home watching television all day long, you're not going to get anywhere. Dreaming, letting somebody else do your dreaming for you. You've got to get out and do it on your own.
Yeah. There's a time and a place to put the phones down.
That's all. That's the worst little toy we ever got invented. I mean, it was great. It's great to a degree, and it's a good tool if it's used as a tool, but not as an umbilical cord.
Ooh, that's well said.
And too many people do that.
Yeah. It's like it's watching the world live instead of living yourself.
That's also profound. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the world live, and you being not a participant, but a observer.
Right. We make wonderful connections with each other. But you know what? One of the things that I see missing in phone communications and such, because I can talk to so many different people on the phone through text or email, and I'm communicating all the time. It's a wonderful device, but just go sitting with someone and having a real relationship, a cup of coffee, listening to their problems, talking things back and forth. And you want to talk about getting rid of some of the psyop crap they're doing with their brains. Go sit with somebody you really love and just talk with them for a while. And you'll be amazed at how much healing there is in that. That's why they had to shut us down. People are herd animals, and we need each other. The phone, it doesn't cut it. It really doesn't cut it for relationships. Who's going to come to your aid if you're really in trouble with all these relationships and something goes wrong? Are they going to be there to pick you up? No, not likely. They might have some, but if you have a relationship with somebody that you're good friends with, that you see on a regular basis, and you actually spent time. I mean, a relationship is something that you have to put time into, and you don't do it to get something back. That's kind of despicable, right? You do it because you actually care. Either you care or you don't. If you turn those relationships into a monetary value or a value of, oh, I might need this person someday, that's not a relationship. That's the person that's a user. A relationship is giving 5,000%, giving everything you have because you care about this person so much that and there's no strings attached. There's no keeping accounts. It's just because you care.
That's part of being proactive instead of reactive.
There you go.
You react to what the government is doing. You want to be proactive.
So sometimes that's a little bit of getting on the ornery train a little bit and refusing to submit. I think they're planning on trying to lock us down again. That's what it looks like. And I posted something recently that showed that this pneumonia, the mycoplasma, that whatever you call it, I don't even know the name. They got so many stupid names. It's not even funny. They've proven that I posted it because it's in the adverse reactions report for the vaccinations. And white lung, I know of someone who got rid of white lung just by upping the vitamin C. But don't listen to their levels that they tell you you're supposed to be taking because they undershoot it because they want us sick.
That's right.
They'll tell you you're supposed to take X amount of vitamin C. That's the biggest lie on the planet. That's like starvation level vitamin C. Up your vitamin C, it's like not gonna, this is not medical advice. Okay. So go talk to your doctor, that sort of thing. But
don't talk to your doctor.
Yeah. Don't, there you go. Yeah. Go think for yourself.
Part of the system. He's part of the organization.
That's right. Research for yourself and make up your own mind. Right. Make up your own mind. You can do this, but just look into the vitamin C, the level of vitamin C. I've done where I've taken 30,000 units of vitamin C in a day. Personally, it's not.
But I take 6,000 every day.
No, I'm way above that because I
probably do too with all the other pills that I take that have vitamin C in them. But straight vitamin C is 6,000 a day.
Yeah, and the form of vitamin C you take too makes a difference of absorption also.
Of course.
Big absorption factor in all of this. But yeah, it's like you really need to research outside of what the so-called experts say. When somebody tells you, are they an expert? Who's the experts? What are the experts saying? Man, they got them rope gagged and down the road of propaganda when you hear that crap. The experts have been wrong on everything I've seen.
That's right. They aren't experts either. They just studied a little longer than you have. That's all.
Or they just know how to say the right words to push everybody's buttons. It might just be a Fed. They might just be part of the FBI. They might just be part of. We can go down there very, very far, but
that's the nonsense of the internet. You remember, the internet's a bathroom wall.
Yeah, we don't know who we're talking to a lot of times.
Right.
Sometimes we do, and we let them expose themselves for what they're actually doing, but we don't know. It's like I would think that the amount of time that you and I have spent unscripted on camera is pretty good indication of who we are, but actually sharing, but there's a lot of people you don't know. But anyhow, thanks for coming on today, and Tatar Tuesday, a massive success. Yay. Thank you, John Tater. I knew, hey, you know what's cool? This guy even looks like you a little bit. Check that out. Gotta put a hat on. So anyhow, thanks for being on today, and we'll see you next week. You have a great weekend, and I won't be able to be on Wednesday night because I'm going to be up in the air, I think, somewhere or moving around a little bit. So, but I'll see you next week on Tatar Tuesday on Brandenburg News Network. So have a great day today, John.
You too.
Thanks.
So
Bye-bye.
long, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good morning. Welcome back to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 5th day of December 2023 once again. And I'm welcoming my buddy on, Courtenay Turner.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. You're such a bright spot in this world. It's just amazing. I love you to pieces. I'm always looking forward to when we can talk.
Likewise.
So yeah. So what's sorry we couldn't carry through with last week, but I'm glad we're back. I mean, we do our best to follow the schedule here, but sometimes it has to change just a little bit.
I get it. Yeah, we're actually going to be gone next week. So we're going to the Reawaken, and then we're going to Amfest. So we'll be out of town next week. But
well,
yes,
just
I get it. Yeah.
Always glad to visit. You got to come up, and we'll do some time up here, just visiting, being friends sometime.
Yeah, definitely. That would be awesome. I think we might be actually in Michigan in June, so I'll let you know. And yeah,
I'm near.
Okay,
God willing.
Yeah. No. Yeah, for sure.
Depends on how many people I make mad, I suppose. But welcome to the Ornery Show, everyone.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I was thinking, I know we were talking about Tavistock, but I was thinking maybe up to you, but take a little bit of a break from it. I've been doing some research on something that's going on right now that I personally find a little bit concerning. And I think, so I talk a lot about like the Hegelian dialectic and how they use, really these dialectical poles in order to create the synthetic fusion, essentially, the spiral that goes towards the omega point. So it's really, I think I don't know if I've outlined.
No, let's just go into this. That's great.
Okay.
I like going in any direction. You're driving the bus on this segment. I just facilitate it.
Okay. Well, so just for people who may not know, or, a refresher, but so a lot of times we talk about the dialectic, and I think people have a general sense of what that is. And a lot of times we've heard people say like thesis, antithesis, synthesis. That was actually not Hegel's terminology. He referenced it as being, let me just turn off all of the dings so that I'm not distracted, because I'm totally ADD. But
I really love about you. I can relate to that.
Yeah, I think I always was, but the technology has not helped me. It's definitely made it worse.
Squirrel, right?
Yeah, it's like everywhere. I was not very active on Twitter for a long time because I got canceled, and it took me 11 appeals to Elon Musk to finally get my handle back. And then for a little while, my fiance made me like a bootleg, kind of like pirated Twitter account. So I was working on that, but I just really wasn't using it that much because it was kind of like it was a pirated handle. Anyway, so I'm now back on, and he keeps saying, he's like, this is not helping. Like, you're way more distracted. I'm like, yeah, I think that's true. But so Hegel actually used the words abstract, negative, concrete, and the term thesis, antithesis, synthesis was actually Fichte, John Gottlieb Fichte, who was he was in during the same time frame, but he had used that as a way of describing Kant's dialectic. And Hegel said that he rejected both Kant and Plato's notion of the dialectic. So, for those who aren't familiar with Plato, talked about the allegory of the cave, and that's probably very familiar to a lot of people. And he talked about the intelligible realm, which would be, what's there inside the cave. And then there's the dividing line, and then there's the unintelligible realm. And he actually said that the intelligible realm was actually even more real. The hyper abstract, the hyper real, was even more real than what people know tangibly. And this is going to be very relevant when I start talking about what I'm talking about today, because I think that what we're seeing really is very reminiscent of that time period of the Enlightenment versus the Romantic philosophers. And I think we're seeing a bit of a resurgence of a counter-Enlightenment movement, only it's couched in language and types of jargon and sensibilities that appeal to, the dissident right, quote unquote conservatives, people who are in the freedom truth movement. And that's why I think it's so dangerous. That's why I want to bring awareness to it, because I think that that's really who's being targeted. I've talked about something I call I feel like it's the counter Intel Pro of Operation Mockingbird. And I actually really have seen this, just as an observer. It feels like that's what's going on. But now I have actually gotten some intel that they really are doing this. And it makes perfect sense that they would do this, because it's a lot cheaper and it's actually a lot easier to infiltrate the alternative media than it is to go into the big, mega corporations. Not that they can't be bought, not that obviously we know all about Operation Mockingbird. I mean, we have the declassified documents. That's not a secret. And it's not a theory, that's been proven. But I think we're seeing that happen. But now it's in the alternative space. And of course, we had the World Economic Forum with their meeting talking about how the biggest threat to their plans and their agendas and their ideas is the alternative media, and something really needs to be done about them. So I think we are seeing now that they are trying to do something about it, and it's coming from not only the federal apparatus, but potentially, even being incentivized supranationally, which I think is very concerning. So back to the dialectic. So Hegel felt that the Kant and Plato's notion was too abstract. He didn't like that. He thought it was very intellectual. It remained kind of heady, and that it didn't advance the historicity of man. And that's really what he was looking to do. So historicity is this notion that man is used and then discarded to, advance history, which is kind of this collective body of time. And of course, this goes towards, for Hegel, he saw it as a spiral where it would progress. Really, he wanted something that was methodical, something that was a systematic and a system of advancing history. So kind of a scientific, but I hesitate to use that word because it was really more of a scientism type of method. It wasn't really, but it was something that could be applied. And then, for those who are familiar with Karl Marx, you can see how reminiscent of Hegel Karl Marx's work really was. There's a lot of similarity, and Marx is a huge fan of Hegel. So Hegel wanted something that would advance the historicity of man towards what he called the omega point. And the omega point for him was where God would equal the state. And that was, the ultimate pinnacle for him. And so it is, I envision it like a spiral, and it gets narrower and narrower. So you have these dialectical poles. So you have, the concrete, which is this idea that emerges, and then you have what he called negative, but the word he actually used translates to sublation, and the word he used was aufheben. So in German, it translates to very oxymoronic type of a term. It means to lift up and preserve while tearing down and canceling. And this is, of course, where Aufheben du Kultur is derived. And that is, what the Frankfurt School used. Aufheben du Kultur is essentially cancel culture, which I don't think is any, mystery to people today. I think lots of people on all sides of the spectrum have experienced this, or at least witnessed it. But this comes out of the Frankfurt School. And that, which is really, right out of that time period as well. Of course, the Frankfurt School started in Frankfurt, Germany. It was born out of a long time coming, but it was really, it really got its launching after Lenin had a meeting. I believe it was 1922, after the Comintern, and he called this private meeting with Antonio Gramsci, who, is a, hardcore socialist who talked a lot about infiltration through the culture. And Antonio Gramsci, William Munzenberg, who was one of the fathers of modern day propaganda, although the credit usually goes to Edward Bernays, who rightly is definitely up there as well. Edward Bernays, for those who don't know, is the double nephew of Sigmund Freud. He wrote the book Propaganda, and his nephew is the founder of today's, in my opinion, modern day propaganda machine, which is known as Netflix. They like to keep it in the family. He actually, Mark Randolph Bernays actually went to Hamilton, which is my alma mater. I don't know what it is about this upstate New York thing, but does seem to be a lot of these things seem to be born out of there.
Let's look at Finger Lakes up there and the nonsense going on up in that area.
That's right. I think we did talk about that. Yeah.
Well,
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's I remember seeing the tattoo on Hunter Biden's back a while back, and it's like, why would you do this?
Right.
There's gotta be a reason, but whatever.
They have to show us. Yeah.
Hunters become the hunted, I guess.
I don't know. I really don't know. So yeah, so then there was William Munzenberg, and then the other one was Georgy Lukács. And essentially Lenin called this meeting because he was very frustrated, because he said that Karl Marx promised that after the revolution that it would spread throughout the West. Of course, he's talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, and that did not happen. And it was Antonio Gramsci who said this, because you're treating this as an economic problem, and that you're looking to create economic revolutions, and we need to go infiltrate through the culture. This needs to be a cultural phenomenon. And it was really shortly after then that they set up shop in Frankfurt, Germany. They started the Frankfurt School. And then from there, they set up shop at the Institute for Social Research at Columbia University in 1923. And now they have an Institute for Social Research all over. They have one in Michigan. They have,
U of M, don't they?
Yep. Yeah. So they have them all over. They've obviously infiltrated all throughout the academic institutions. I mean, at this point, it's very pervasive. So that was the Frankfurt School, and they were very instrumental in this cultural type of long march through the institutions. So Hegel saw this as so you would negate, it would be, a sublation, which would then, and then you have the abstract, which for him really was concretization. So it was where you then, even though it's the concrete negative abstract, the abstract in a sense is really where you get everything synthesized, and the former two are like submerged into each other. So it's I think a really good analogy for you and your audience is probably the Ouroboros. The snake eats its tail, and it keeps going. That's essentially like I think the visual of it. So I'm just seeing all of that is just a little bit of a backstory to give you a sense of what it is I'm seeing and why I'm going to bring up what I'm going to bring up. What I have done some research into is there's a new NGO that has cropped up. It's called ARC, Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. And this is Jordan Peterson is the figurehead for it, if you will. I know he has been kind of like the darling of the right, and definitely very much a father figure to people on the political right, and I would say really worldwide, because he's non-American, he's Canadian. He himself does not classify himself as a conservative at all. Now, conservative Canadian philosophy is actually very different. It's really to the left of American conservatism, just ideologically speaking, according to the spectrum. But he himself doesn't even call himself a Canadian conservative. He would say he's a Canadian classical liberal, which of course is the left of American. And but he has nonetheless, because of he was kind of catapulted onto the scene in 2017. He was arguing against Bill C-16, which was where they were insisting that you address people with pronouns. and he took a big stand against this, and that catapulted him to fame. So I've always found that a little bit interesting. So just personally, a little backstory on me. So, where, research is me search, right? And I, in 2020, I was very, I always say I was very late to the party. Like, it took me a very long time to wake up. I really just did deep dives on everything in the past few years. So in 2020, I was introduced to Jordan Peterson, and it was through Roger Scruton, who I think is a phenomenal philosopher, and he's really fun because he wrote books on conservatism, like the foundings of conservative philosophy. But he also wrote like on the philosophy of wine, the philosophy of beauty. Like, he was just a really fun but beautiful writer. And it was, just really kind of a nice reprieve for me in 2020, which was a really hard time. I started looking for some videos to watch on Scruton, and I found some of his with Jordan Peterson. And I became very fond of Jordan Peterson's work, and I went down, to basically devour as much of Jordan Peterson as I possibly could. And I, listened to his Maps of Meaning course. He did 2 of them. I listened to his personality course that he did. So I know a lot of people are familiar with 12 Rules for Life, and then he wrote the Beyond 12 Rules. And the subtitle of both of those is pretty interesting, right? It's like Beyond Chaos. It's something to order and beyond chaos. That's kind of like his theme, which is kind of interesting because those who know the history of the Illuminati, they talk about, order through chaos. So I always found that kind of interesting that he talks a lot about that. But those were his more popular books. I actually read those, and I think for me, I didn't enjoy them as much. I found them kind of like self-help gimmicky. That's not to undermine the work. There's definitely value in it. But he wrote another book before that was called Maps of Meaning, which was, I think, a much better book. A lot of people will, argue against the tenets in there, which I find interesting just in of itself. My understanding is it took him either 15 or 20 years to write it. I mean, he wrote it over a very long span time. And from reading it, I can see kind of his intellectual journey. It's not like he agrees with everything that he wrote in the early parts of the book. So it's interesting when somebody has like kind of a blatant, rebuttal against something that you're like, this is a whole body of work. It's not like so I enjoyed that because it really was a journey, and I think it's just a much richer book. I don't agree with all of his, I don't necessarily even agree with his main thesis. I think, he calls it Maps of Meaning. I think Myths of Meaning is probably a more accurate title. And I apologize, I'm so long-winded, but I'm going to get to why this is really important and why I think that I'm trying to set the stage.
It's important to have these long discussions and make sure that people get everything out of their heads. We were talking about this morning, because that's how you get past the sound bites and you actually get educated. It takes some time to listen and work through this so that you understand the subject matter. So I think it's very valuable. You just keep going.
Okay. So all this to say that, so I was a huge fan, but it did seem kind of odd to me that this Canadian professor catapults onto the scene. And what started to alert me to that, and so what starts to alert me to that was that they started framing him as this alt-right character. This is why I gave you the backstory of he himself identifies as a liberal and a Canadian liberal, which is definitely not a conservative. It is definitely not alt-right. And they would do these like gotcha pictures with Pepe the Frog and him, like, inserted into the picture to try and paint him as this alt-right figure, which he is definitely not. So I thought that was kind of strange. And, a couple of antennas started to raise for me. But of course, at the time, it was a very difficult time for me personally. And I was, he was keeping me company. So I kind of, oh, that's interesting, but I shoved it aside. And then he went to rehab. Right. He got addicted to benzodiazepines, which the whole story was a little interesting to me because if you've read Maps of Meaning and even 12 Rules for Life, he has an extensive knowledge of neuropsychiatry. So this isn't somebody who even as a psychologist, and this is not to undermine psychology, but this is somebody who understands pharmacology and neurology. So it's not somebody who is just like, oh, I'm a little depressed, and somebody was like, here, pop some pills. It's odd to me that he would not have had, and we're all human, we're all fallible, and we all have our own blind spots. So that's worth taking into account. But it was just interesting. He becomes so addicted that he has to be sent to Russia to deal with this addiction.
Sent to Russia.
Apparently he couldn't get treatment here. Now, it was during 2020, so it was an interesting time, but yeah, he went to Russia, and he was
all right.
I know. He was in a coma for 6 months, and there were some very interesting statements I could probably even find that he talks about, like how
for 6 months. Do you realize if this was the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, the whole United States would lose their freaking mind. Oh no, President Trump goes to Russia because, and this guy, nobody hears about it. That should be the first clue that Houston, we have a problem here.
It was definitely
I didn't know the story, so this is really kind of like first pass through for me. But
okay.
That I didn't know he was. You can't follow everybody that's out there.
No, you can, of course.
I casually listen to the guy, tell me to say, but I don't know the backstory. So this is really interesting. But he goes to Russia for treatment. He
talks about how at McGill, these are some quotes from him, and this is before he goes in, but you'll see why it's relevant. At McGill, I split myself in two, he told Esquire magazine in 2018. Peterson got very sick from an addiction to benzodiazepines and ended up in an induced coma. He says of his time that he remembers nothing between December 2019 and February 2020. After the treatment, he could neither walk nor remember large parts of his life. During his illness and treatment, he wrote a second book, which was 12 Rules for Life. And then so at this ARC conference, I don't know if you can see this, but if you can, can you kind of see that? That's his suit, which again, I think is just very interesting because he talks about
that's some psychological weird crap going on there to split that. It's like a split personality thing.
Exactly.
That's
and it reminds me a little bit of Two-Face from Batman.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they do use symbols, don't they?
Oh, they do.
Wow.
So if you listen to his language currently, he's always talking about tilting towards heaven, away from hell. There is this constant duality. He talks about order and chaos. There's constant binary. So I mean, it's just interesting, but it's also interesting from somebody who said he split himself in two in 2018. And so he goes and he's in this induced coma. Now, I can't prove this, but my personal theory is that there was some sort of MK Ultra type of programming that may have occurred, because I do feel like he has become some sort of an asset. He's, very much been catapulted to the forefront. He's very much become, as I was saying earlier, kind of like this darling of the right, and which is interesting because he's not very conservative. If you really listen to him, he's anti-socialism, he's anti-totalitarianism, which
so
I appreciate.
But you never know.
Pardon?
So he says, but you never know.
Yeah, well, I think he is, as a general kind of philosophy. I don't know that he's opposed to being at the head of such a, kind of fascist state, which is what we'll get to with his arc. But he does seem to be against those things, and I support that, and I like that we have that kind of a figurehead. And he does talk, and this is not to say that he has no value. I mean, I think he does great things for young men in talking about responsibility. And I think part of his popularity is because they're really craving that. I think that we as a society have, become so entitled, and it's such a convenience world that people are so far removed from that. And I think the ones that it really hurts in particular are the men. Because men need to have a sense of duty, a sense of responsibility in order to feel a sense of worth and purpose. Yeah.
All right. So you and I, as two women who are not confused, are going to right here on this planet tell all the guys, we charge you to be the men that God created you to be.
Yes.
And, bring on the toxic masculinity. Protect
sure.
and defend. Yeah, that's it's and never feel bad about that. This is what you're supposed to do. And we need you. We need the men on this planet to be the protectors and the defenders. That doesn't mean be a bully. That means handle business. And that's a problem with some of the mind games been playing with people is they're trying to take that masculine energy that God gives guys and trying to make a woman. I don't want you to be a woman. Neither does any woman really out there.
Absolutely.
It's like, go ahead and cave time and do the things you got to do.
And the women don't want to have to take on that role. I mean, we're seeing a lot of it, but that's not the what women want to do biologically. And there's always exceptions, but for the most part,
my husband's a great little mechanic when and it's like, I'm glad because I am not going to do mechanic work on my car.
Yeah.
And I know those are traditional. That's a very stereotypical, thing to say. Oh, well, it's my words and I'm entitled to it. But it's like he's got his things that he's great at. I'm not going to be out there, with a chainsaw chopping down the trees the size that he does. And he loves it. He gets the trees. Man, he's got chainsaw. He's out there,
Totally. Yeah.
For sure. I think it's great. A guy with a chainsaw is amazing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I think that he's done some good in that regard. And I think it speaks more to, a commentary on our society and our culture. The fact that his popularity has reached such heights, because it shows what we're lacking and what we need. But all that to say that some other things are a little bit concerning. So he catapulted to fame in this time. And then in 2020, he comes back. And now for me, I think where I could no longer ignore that there were some of these signs was he comes back in February 2020. And the first podcast he does when he comes back, on the scene, or at least the first I'm aware of, there may have been others, but was with Douglas Murray, who is British. And Douglas Murray, one of his more recent books was called Madness of Crowds. It's a great commentary on, kind of the cultural stuff the cultural wokeness. And it was written for Douglas Murray he's a gay guy. So, coming from him, I think he talks a lot about, he's very much talking against a lot of this LGBTQ type of stuff that has, permeated the culture. And I think coming from him, it has some credibility. It's like even he's not in favor of it. But he and Jordan do this podcast, and most of it was just bashing Americans, particularly the conservatives, talking about how that the Trump supporters are just sore losers and they need to get over the fact that there was no fraud. First of all, I was just very I was really upset by this podcast. I was never like a huge Douglas Murray fan. I kind of wasn't too surprised from him, but I was really upset with Jordan Peterson. And this is just my personal experience. But they have this whole conversation. Now, first of all, here's a Brit and a Canadian who are,
weighing in on America.
Yeah, and our election.
They got their own problems to deal with.
It's like what business is it of theirs, and where do they get the grounds to be critiquing us? And Jordan even brought up in this podcast how his wife Tammy had said, you've repeatedly said that the judicial system in the United States is very corrupt. Do you think that could be at play here? And he just snapped, and he's like, that was so ludicrous. I don't know how she could even think that's not what's going on here. And they're just sore losers, and they need to get over that there was no fraud. So, I mean, this podcast, I think, was almost 2 hours long. So obviously they discussed a lot more throughout this conversation. But a lot of it was just this kind of rhetoric, and it was very upsetting and disappointing to me. So this gives me another kind of just another marker of where things were at. So I started to think, okay, maybe he really is being primed, groomed for something. And again, this is speculative. I can't prove that, but I have done a lot of research on MK Ultra. I do know a lot about how those studies worked and how they used assets during that time. And I don't really believe
love
that it
talking
ended.
about this. I want to hear everything you have to say about this whole MK Ultra stuff, because it's for real. And
it's very real. And it's
any
part
of
of
us-
why
yeah,
it's part of why I talk about Tavistock and why I want people to understand, because I think Tavistock laid the groundwork for MK Ultra. I don't really think MK Ultra could have happened without the research that was done at Tavistock. And a lot of that research was done through trauma-based mind control. So that's, the shell shock therapy clinic that they developed at Tavistock. That's where the name Tavistock Clinic came from, was the donation of this building specifically designated for shell shock therapy research. And of course, then, it led to insulin therapy research. And then, of course, later, we touched a little bit on this last time with the psychedelics and psychotropic drugs, where they were doing a lot of experiments on that. And we know that bleeds right into the MK Ultra research, where they were doing experiments with things like LSD and other hallucinogens to see the effects of possible mind control, possible blurring of boundaries, and what impact that would have, and how you could then use that to manipulate and control a person. And it's my estimation that they have taken this on individuals that they've tested. And of course, there are individuals that we know have become known assets. They install triggers, whether it be trauma-based kind of triggers, or literal drug-induced trauma-based triggers. But then I think they also take it out to the masses, and it becomes weaponized against, a larger scale. So again, I can't prove it, but that is kind of my theory with him. And especially since he was in a coma for, 6 months was what he says. So it does seem just odd. And then he comes back onto the scene. So getting to this company, it's called ARC, which is Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, which the name itself just seems a little strange to me when they're supposedly promoting like individual liberty and conservative values. It seems almost like an oxymoron. Why would you have this international NGO that's that seems like kind of oxymoron.
I'm suspect of like all of them right now, because people are so the assets and the people, the bad guys, are so good at infiltrating all of these organizations, that it's like the Red Cross. All of them need to be questioned.
All of them.
The foundations, the organizations, and to look how they move money back and forth. It's crazy. Yes. On an individual basis, and how individuals will get money from them, and then they'll move it from one entity to the other. The poster child industry for this is politics. And yes. You can clearly see that, and then also the compromise, and I don't know what it is that flips people around so quickly. They'll be seem like they're going pretty well for a while, and then all of a sudden they're off the rails completely. There is no, I'm not a believer in the yin and yang thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Even though people will talk about it. Okay.
Right.
This is not the realm that I go, and I let people talk and say what's on their mind. Doesn't mean I agree with it. Right.
Right.
We have choices between good and evil that we make all the time. We are being tested, but there is no way that darkness can exist in the light. Mm-hmm. There's no way. The light dispels the darkness. We're not supposed to necessarily have that necessary balance. We're supposed to go to God, and that's it. You have to choose. And there's choices that every one of us are called to make as we live our life. God gave us the ability of free will. No, there's no two ways about it. But you can't play the line on this. There's no walking a tightrope on this one. You don't do it. You have to jump one way or the other.
Right.
In these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So
why did they jump off? I mean, there's the proverbial question. Why is it so effective on some people, but not all people?
Why is what so effective?
The MK Ultra and some of the stuff that they do, because it's not effective on all people.
Well, I don't know that you're talking about when they do wide scale, like mass scale kind of.
Why is it some of us woke up quicker,
right?
And some of us did not, and some of us are still not awake in areas. Why is it that our mind compartmentalizes, or why are their tactics working on some and not others?
I mean, my theory on that has to do with divergent personalities. So there's actually like, a section of the population who cannot be hypnotized. So when I actually first graduated from college, I was a hypnotherapist, and I helped a lot of people. It was mostly habit formation type things, like with their sleep, nutrition goals, or it helped some people stop smoking or biting their nails, that sort of thing. And I did it for about 9 months, but I couldn't personally be hypnotized. And so I felt like a fraud and I quit. But it does seem that there are divergent personalities are much less susceptible to hypnosis.
What is the definition of that? Can you define that for us?
Of a divergent personality? Yeah, maybe I'll find the actual definition.
I decided to try that when I was younger, and they couldn't hypnotize me either. I thought, okay, it was at the stage of, try almost everything just to see what it's to experience it. And I was like, this is stupid, that's how I felt about it. I'm like, I'm, and I try, and I'm sitting there going, this is not working for it at all.
Yeah, no, I never been one that, was easily like fall in line with things. I typically questioned everything.
Yeah.
So, thinking divergently or divergent thinking is unstructured, free-form, way of problem solving. And I'm also a very associative thinker. I'm not a linear thinker. In which participants produce many innovative ideas or solutions to a pressing problem. Divergent thinkers are often independent, curious, risk takers. Divergent thinkers. This is not like a definition. Let me see if I can find a definition.
Characteristics. It's characteristics. Okay, so that the characteristics kind of define it, though.
Well, yeah. The divergent thinkers can quickly and spontaneously produce many ideas, find multiple ways to solve a problem, think of ideas most people may not, develop and improve their ideas, use feedback to improve ideas and methodologies, creatively implement better solutions, work collaboratively with other unique challenges. Yeah, but it's not really like a definition. I'd love to find divergent.
I think we can define it as somebody who thinks for themselves and is not just someone who takes everything hook, line, and sinker.
Right. Yeah, it's a critical thinker.
It's essentially a critical thinker that never really. Okay, that makes some good sense.
So the definition of divergent is tending to be different or develop in different directions. Divergent interpretation, and in mathematics, it's increasing infinitely as more of its terms are added. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So here's the other. This is Merriam's dictionary: moving or extending in different directions from a common point, diverging from each other, differing from each other, or from a standard. Yeah. So
awesome.
People outside standard deviation, essentially. But I think that they're less susceptible to hypnosis. So, and a lot of the tactics that are used for mind control are, hypnotic kind of. They fall under like the hermetic principles of like mentalism and what are the other ones? That's the number one, mentalism. There are 7 of them. But yeah, I'd have to go and look. I don't remember them right now.
Not good sheep. How's that?
Right, exactly. It's not sheeple.
We're not sheeple.
So this is ARCs. What they say about themselves, they are the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. They're an international community with a vision for a better world where every citizen can prosper, contribute, and flourish. We are inviting you to join in developing a better narrative in response to life's most fundamental social, economic, philosophical, and cultural questions. We reject the inevitability of decline and instead are seeking solutions to draw on humanity's highest virtues and extraordinary capacity for innovation, ingenuity. It sounds great. However, it's a little bit curious. Why would you develop
Freaky.
an international organization to do this?
And why are they telling you what to think to begin with? You know, that's what I always wonder. It's like if somebody's trying to tell you how to think or how you should live your life, it's like, first of all, who the heck are they?
Right.
And did you go to God first? That should be the first question. And
Well, so,
you
and I
know,
want
are
to
you being yourself? I mean, it's like
I do want to bring this up because you bring up you should go to God first. So what I really think is happening here, I'll just tell you my thesis. I essentially think this is the right-hand dialectical arm for the World Economic Forum. The funding for this is essentially very, very much linked to the World Economic Forum. Some of their financial backers are the same people. So that in itself is very concerning. The people involved in this are very much billionaires. But the reason I wanted to interject there when you bring up, you go to God first is they're doing this in a way that is very appealing to conservatives, particularly social conservatives, and they're couching it very much under the umbrella of it being a Christian forward type of organization. And the reason why I think that's very important is because a lot of times things can be very deceptive, and not to say that these people aren't necessarily Christians, they very may well be. However, I do think this is a counter enlightenment type of a movement. Jordan Peterson himself only less than a week ago did a podcast where he talked about how we are in a counter enlightenment phase. I can send you the link to that. It's a 3-hour.
I agree. As a Christian, I think the Christian church right now is absolutely pathetic. And Jesus talked about it. It's like when I say go to God, I don't mean go into church and sit.
No, I understand that.
I'm talking about you should get real quiet and see if he's, and just talk to him, not having all these outside influences, because the Christian church it's pathetic and it's been infiltrated. And Jesus said, we knew that this was going to happen. If you didn't know that this was going to happen, you haven't been in your Bible enough.
Right.
But to the point being is that and God said that the first to be judged is going to be the church, and it is going to be weighed and found wanting tremendously because of it's completely, in my opinion, it's completely apostate. Now there may be some pockets of real believers and people who truly see God. But I'm going to tell you, I haven't seen it in a long time. And it's like, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on this nonsense. And neither should anybody else. You have to critically think and say, this is my problem. I'll go sit in a church and I spend the whole time going, that doesn't make sense to me. This is not true. They're bending the Bible to their will to get the butts in the seat to pay for their expensive air conditioning. Last time I checked, Jesus went to people's homes and actually served. So there's a disconnect there, and it's tremendous. And you could really see it during the COVID lockdowns. Any of those churches that locked down, they should be abolished.
Of course,
they absolutely should be abolished because they didn't serve. I got to show you this scene. I'm going to put this in here. It's fun because this is so. I don't know. I'm going to put Disney up there as a poster child of telling us what they've done.
Oh.
It's a man cub. A delicious man cub.
Oh, go away and leave me alone.
That's just what I should do, but I'm not. Oh, now, please go to sleep, man cub. Yes, man cub.
And move forward. There you go.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever watched that?
No.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So all you got to do is go to the movies and such and watch it. But check this out. Look at this. Because if you go to Disney and you go to all of the movies that are out there and the cartoons, it's not just in one. Here's Home on the Range. Here is Atlantis. There's one in there's a hypnosis scene in almost all the Disney movies. And so I'll go back here because you're going to see it in the cartoons. And I'm going to tell you what, you guys, you're going to need to start turning your TVs off and watch what your kids are watching, because there's a lot. This is what I see a lot of. I see this kind of stuff. That's why I don't watch TV. You know, there's another, here you go. Here's, Powder Puff Girls. I think that's what that is. I don't know what everything I'm looking at, but this isn't a one-off here, guys. This is not a one-off by any imagination. So there's I'm going to point something out, and I'm going to hang somebody just a little bit here that I like.
Okay.
But I want to blow the warning for everyone out there, because there are some of us that maybe see the world a little differently, right? So I watch, and I love this show. Okay, it's Y-Files, because it gets you to think about things, and they laugh about lizard people and such. But if you ever watch that, be very careful, because they do a very quick pulsing, rapid change in lighting.
Like the flicker.
It's a flicker. I won't watch it. Like, I'll listen, but when they start that flicker crap, I put my eyes down. So I'm listening, but I'm not watching.
Right. That is a mind control tactic.
It's a mind control thing. And so I like listening to all things, but you've got to be aware of some of these mind control things, and when it's on, and if when it's on, because I like to watch it, I'll tune into that once in a while. Just to see what he's talking about, the different things. And there's some things in there to listen, and I listen. I don't agree with any of it.
Sure, of course.
But I'll listen.
Of course.
I'll listen to whatever is out there. Like, somebody asked me about the flat earth thing, and I'm like, I'm not going to even weigh into this opinion on this nonsense, because we're losing our freaking country, and people are wondering about flat earth. It's like, are you kidding me? Why is this important at this moment in time right now? This is a lack of focus big time, as we're watching the destruction of our nation. And it's like we'll have the discussion over, and I'm not going to play beer pong. I've never played beer pong, but it's like, this is a beer pong discussion. Okay. This is not a discussion that contributes one thing to the situation we're in right now. Go play your beer pong and deal with it. If you're not into being serious about righting this nation, go ahead. I don't care. But don't expect me to jump into beer pong subject. And it's like, because I don't really care. Things are what it's going to be. We've got people that are committing suicide. We've got our currency breaking apart. We've got our farmland being brought up. We are right where the Bolshevik Revolution was, when they were destroying the farmland, and they watched 10 million people exterminated.
Right. I know.
And you're going to be talking to me about the flat earth thing. It's like, if you do, that's great. I don't care if you want to do this for fun and games. It's just like, I don't like to get into Bible prophecy too much, though I know a decent amount of it. It's Bible fun and games at this point. It's great. Study it, show yourself, prove it. I get it. But if you're trying to get into the fortune telling to figure out what's going on, because that's what it is. It's not the word of God that's fortune telling, but all of this stuff to bring into this knowledge of trying to figure out exactly what that means. You're missing the point of serving God here now, instead of trying to save your tail by figuring out the prophecy.
Well, it's also just another variation of immunization of the eschaton, right? It's just, and there are people on both sides who use it.
You bet they do. And it's like, okay, this is great. God told us what's going to happen. I love that. I study it. I read it. I read every it. And I believe that the word of God is inspired by God, and that it is the unchangeable word of God. I do believe that. And so it's a living document. When you read the Bible, God talks to you as you're reading it, to your situations right now. That's very Jewish. That's a very Jewish principle. But it's like, he talks to us as we are asking him and going to him. He will tell us what's going on. But going and saying, oh, look, I'm seeing what this person is doing here, and that's in the Bible. It's like, really? I that's great. You're trying to fortune tell to try to save your own behind, instead of just being present and serving God now.
Right.
But I'm on an ornery tangent right now.
I've asked people because people have commented on my podcast that I really need to explore the flat Earth theory, and I mean I've looked at it a little bit, but I was like I'm asking you genuinely, like why is it so important? They're like,
Right.
well, because we've been lied to about everything. I'm like, that's pretty obvious. I don't need to explore flat Earth.
Yeah,
to know we've been lied to
newsflash.
about everything.
There's like 1,000 topics you could get on to be lied
Yeah,
to.
like,
Why
but
fixate
I have a
on
group.
this
It's
one?
actually my tour group. They're hardcore flirters, and if anybody like addresses if they even say globe, like they're triggered, and they say, well, flat Earth is biblical, and anybody who doesn't address that is just, they're lying, and
then
they're
they go after your religious beliefs and your relationship with God. Isn't that convenient? It's just like so because they're so ready to program you. I'm glad that they're bringing their truth out and they're bringing things out. Anybody should be able to research anything. That's great. We need to do that. But that doesn't mean that I have to go lockstep with what you believe, because God puts other things in me and in you to go forward with. And so don't try to get us, divergent thinkers to jump on the bandwagon just to say so, because it ain't gonna work.
No. I don't know what the answer is on that. I haven't done enough research on it, but my feeling is
they care. It's like we're gonna find out when we find out. Just like Christians will get us on creation. And okay, here I'll go ahead and throw a bomb right into the room right there. That's great. First of all, yes, I do believe that God created. There's no way that we couldn't be here without creation. How did that look like? Please, someone tell me. 6 literal days of creation. How do you have that when the sun and the moon weren't created until the 3rd day to mark the days? Okay, so what's the day before that? Let's have a discussion on that. And so it's like, and God says that a day to God is like 1,000 years. He's telling us right there. So how do we know before the 3rd day if there weren't billions of years there? We do not know, even if you want to go down that thing. Right. And it's like, so I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I got too much to do right now to sit here and argue finer points when we can't even talk about the things that are critical to dealing with the people that we're supposed to be here to serve.
Right.
So I don't know. There you go. There's a Donna bomb right there.
I agree
on that, but.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this, this could go on for a while, but I encourage people to go look into ARC, and I just want them to put on a critical lens, because the warning is that it is going to be couched in a lot of language that sounds very appealing to conservatives.
Say the name again. ARC.
It's ARC, Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. And my concern is
that comes up right away in the searches too, man. You can look for anything and spend 69 or 60 million years.
It's also really interesting that when you go to look at the company records, the former name for it was Prosperity UK 2017, which was filed in 2016. When did Jordan Peterson come onto the scene? So
look, they've got a pyramid in here. You want to check it out? Check this out. This is like going to the Washington Monument. Been looking at it from the bottom up. You start seeing crazy stuff here. So let's just see. Moral universe is long and it bends towards justice. There you go. There's your pyramid right there.
I didn't see the pyramid.
Watch. Okay, I'll see if I can stop it. I don't know if I can stop it. You're gonna have to be quick to see this here.
Okay.
Let's see. So pay attention. It's coming.
I'm watching.
Watch the building. It's when the building comes forward.
Okay.
Right there.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Huh.
Why did they take the shot the way that they did it?
Right.
You got to ask that question.
It's just, I mean, when you look at the financing, this comes out of Legatum. Legatum and Paul Marshall seem to be the primary backers. Paul Marshall was very connected to GB News, which also looks like kind of a controlled opposition type of conservative news outlet. But Legatum is, they've got like they've got the End Fund, the Freedom Fund, the Luminous Fund. Also, their language is just
Yeah,
Huh?
that should be a cue right there. The Luminous Fund.
Luminous Fund, and they've got this MIT Entrepreneurship Center where they're teaching women like basket weaving. I'm not really sure why MIT is, spending a fortune to teach women basket
Why did
weaving.
they have all the child porn on the MIT servers that Aaron Schwartz found and
Mhm.
James Dolan, which resulted in the globalist traffickers of the pornography and these horrific child porn stuff. They were on the MIT servers.
Wow.
Everybody needs to ask questions about all of this. And check this out: hope in an age of permacrisis, which they created.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be the answer.
They're going to be the answer. Well, and then you
Yep.
also have to look at the World Economic Forums. I just did, it was a 3.5 hour episode with Johnny Bedmore, and we talked about Kissinger. And of course, Kissinger was a mentor of sorts to Klaus Schwab. He recruited Klaus Schwab at a CIA-funded Harvard program that Kissinger helmed. And then it was him and Herman Kahn and Kenneth Galbraith who recruited Klaus Schwab to start the European Symposium Management Forum. And then, of course, that became the World Economic Forum. And then years later, he mentored Klaus again to start the Young Global Leaders. And there are many young global leaders in this arc. And I bring up Kissinger and Schwab because the World Economic Forum does look like Schwab has not necessarily picked a successor. And that I don't know that to be true. What we just haven't seen that emerge quite yet, although it's entirely possible that he's still working on that. The other possibility is that this dialectical right arm will subsume the World Economic Forum. So it's essentially, to me, it just looks like, and it's interesting that he's wearing this bifurcated suit, right? Because it just looks like this is going to be the right-hand path that will push forward toward the same agenda. And there's a lot of evidence to indicate that just when you look at the funding. I mean, Legadam's client is the World Economic Forum, so we have direct connection there. We have lots of UN members who are part of this arc. Jordan Peterson himself worked on a document. It was around the climate narrative, but for the UN, he claims to be very against the climate change, and a lot of these people claim to be. However, what it sounds like is they're just not in favor of the story that's being told. And isn't that what Jordan Peterson, Philippa Stroud, Baroness Stroud, who's also seems to be the CEO of this arc and also very much a kind of front for it, front woman for this organization to advance to craft the narrative around it. And what they both keep saying is we need a better story. What does that sound like to you? It sounds a lot like Klaus Schwab's, greater narrative, right? We need a great narrative, which is kind of reminiscent of Lyotard, the postmodernist meta narrative. And it sounds like he's just saying that we need a better narrative, not the one that's being told. And all of them keep saying this. So it very concerning to me. I highly encourage people go and look into it and, beware. Use discernment is really just all I'm going to say.
You got to ask a lot of questions. So I'm going to bring up this on Aaron Schwartz. If you guys want to look at something, and honestly, check this out. He died at 26 years old with a red scarf or red tie around his neck to a doorknob. I hope nobody is dumb enough to believe that somebody commits suicide by hanging from a doorknob.
Although there's so many stories of that, which
I'm so done with this. You've got him, you've got Anthony Bourdain and the sister of the Queen of the Netherlands that died on I believe the same day, and all of them with a red neck, a red thing. You can't escape this. But if you look into the background of Aaron Schwartz and see what he did, is he was a contractor for MIT, and he got in behind the scenes and ended up finding a whole bunch of the child porn that was on there. And it's been on our computers in the Pentagon. This is a big deal. It really is. And it goes back to child trafficking. He spent 8 hours downloading it to prove what he found until they finally figured out he did and locked it out. That means there were tons and tons of video on there. Then he gave it to several people downstream from him, and ended up with James Dolan, who was also killed in the same way.
Wow.
You've got James, you've got John Perry Barlow that was in this thing, and Edward Snowden that was in it. Oh, there's all this thing. If you want to find out what happened there, you've got to go through Aaron Swartz, James Dolan, John Perry Barlow, Edward Snowden, and to see exactly what happened there, and what they couldn't say, and what they wanted to say, and what they were killed for. They didn't commit suicide.
Right.
Well,
MIT is where they created that like quantum dot financial technology, which I think is very connected to the CBDCs.
There's a lot of weird stuff that happens in these organizations that we were taught to revere, that they were on the leading edge. No, that's how they hide stuff from us.
Right. Exactly.
They create false heroes for us to follow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you've got to be willing to think. I had a perfect example of this that kind of happened the last few days for me. And so, I mean, every day we should be introspective and check ourselves, and then go to God himself and say, what do you want me to learn from this situation?
Right.
And to critically think through the landmines that are being put in front of us.
Right.
And they may not all be bad. They may just be teaching us something that we needed to know to go forward into whatever it is that God calls us. So, I mean, it's not something to be afraid of. You just you gotta run towards the fire sometimes,
Right. Exactly.
Well, this is really good. I mean, this was a very informative show for me. Because
good.
A lot. You always bring up a lot of things that I don't have experience in, but I love learning from you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you really are amazing. You're an amazing person. And I think this is something to, really, I'm going to bring this back on again here after we went down the Aaron Swartz rabbit hole there, which is a good one to go down. I mean, go figure that out.
Start and go through the board of advisory. I mean, Legatum comes up a lot, and you'll see they're bringing Jonathan Pageau as a big figure in this. As I said, this is really couched in Christianity. A lot of them, are talking about bringing, religion and faith back into the fold. And while on the surface, I support that. I think people need to know that, there's mystics on all sides. There's a Christian mysticism as well. And that is kind of what a lot of this language looks like. These characters are really interesting when you start going down these rabbit holes. I mean, again, like Bjorn Lomborg, who talks about.
Oh, there you go. There's World Economic Forum, Dan Crenshaw.
Yep.
Crenshaw is a World Economic Forum guy.
He was a young leader, young global leader. Yep. Then there was this, she's not on here, but the Eva Vander Blinker. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I apologize for that. But she is a Dutch economist who was, speaking out about the Dutch farmers. But she was at this conference, and she did a tweet saying how she's so proud to be one of their young leaders. And then, of course, she backtracked because the optics did not look very well. And a lot of people actually commented they could see through it. And she said, I'm not officially with the organization. Yeah. So
check this out. Check this out.
Mike Johnson, right? And so he's the Speaker of the House. And did anybody know who he was before? No. I think they catapulted him as well. Mike Johnson, Vivek Ramaswamy also.
I didn't like any of these guys when they came out of anywhere. I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. Who's the next little icon they're going to throw at us to see if we're going to bite on this and be stupid and follow them? You don't follow people. You wait until they prove who they are.
Exactly.
And this is pretty. I'm glad you brought us here because let's see, what did I do? I'm glad you brought us there because honestly, that's my settings things. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, and when you go back down to the bottom, you look at Paul Marshall. Everybody needs to look into Paul Marshall. He's a mega tycoon, business guy, media mogul. as I had mentioned with the GB News. He was part of Unheard News, but he's found like seed money. So I've seen some conflicting reports, but it does look like he got to start at BlackRock. And his seed money for Marshall Waste Fund. Yeah, this is Paul Marshall right here on the left. And
let's see. Hopefully I don't hit the settings button.
When he first started, $25 million came from George Soros.
Okay, so I want to go back to what you said about the Netherlands there. There's a connection here in Grand Rapids, and I'm going to blow this thing up pretty good, big time. And I've started putting it out there. But the DeVos family and the Van Andel family in Grand Rapids, here they are running around talking about how natural and clean and blah, blah, blah. These people have funded 4 facilities in the Grand Rapids area that have produced the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. They're talking out of both sides of their mouths, and it goes right back to the Netherlands. And I mean, everybody in West Michigan is part Dutch somehow.
Yeah, so it was, let me find it. Eva, her whole, I can probably, I don't know if I can find it. My notes on this thing are just crazy, but I need to organize it and make a kind of streamlined, see if I can find. Maybe if I just go to Twitter, I could probably find it there. Go to, Eva. She did a whole kind of like apology, which I just thought it just looked like she's backtracking, in my opinion. But let's see if I could. And I'll read it. Okay, yeah. So she did this post. She said, do we lose?
Hey, my computer up again. So you're on the show by yourself.
Okay. All right.
How many times has this happened to us?
I know.
I'll go through something like this, and we bring up these really tough topics, and it locks the computer up. Now, I'm assuming you're still on.
I am still on.
I can see it. So you're carrying the show right now. I have no access to this whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, it killed my feed. It killed me being able to get on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this is the second time this has happened when we're on, and I've called them out for what they've done. That it says having trouble connection. This is an unstable internet connection. No, it's not, and it's happened every time you and I have gotten on the last couple of times, where all of a sudden I'm off, you're on there by yourself. I mean, I can end the thing, but look at the screen.
Yeah, I see it. It's just circling.
Yeah. They killed my screen, and so like I can do it through the phone, and they can hear my voice here. But this is what it is. So let me see. I'm going to help them here a minute, because I'm just going to keep talking about names that are on here. Vivek Ramaswamy is on here, Vivek, and I wondered about that. It's like you see all these people that are catapulted forward, and to your point, you have got to ask some questions, because where did they come from? Why did they? It's like people are looking for the new savior.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but when you see, I posted something today that was the satanic altar that they had up in the Iowa Capitol to welcome the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump there. And it's shameful. Kim Reynolds should be ashamed of herself. And it's like they fly these people in, and it's incredible. Now I think you're off. No, maybe not.
Oh no.
It's the craziest thing. But you know what? I tell you what, why don't we go ahead and end it here?
Sure.
And tell everybody, look up arcforum.com.
Yes.
and go look at this and search this thing out for yourself.
Right.
Because, don't believe us. Go look for yourself and see what's going on here, because it's nonsense. So yeah, let's say a prayer. And I want to pray for people like Kim Reynolds. Let's pray for people who are in this club, this network that moves to the top and has the blessings of, say the global mafia that's going on, the global crime syndicate, because this is what we're seeing here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just got to run to the fire. You just keep going. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very, very much for this day. Thank you for giving us an ability to have still have. Oh, there we go. Now that they brought it back on, isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Let's try this.
Okay.
So now we're back on it. Immediately I start praying and it starts resolving. Because why? Because why? Let's just do this again. Because they haven't learned that they're going to get their tails beat one way or another. So here we go. The advisory board. Good luck with that, guys. Keep attacking me. I'm going to come up in 100,000 little incarnations because I can do that. Here we go. Dan Crenshaw. Wham.
Mm-hmm.
Wham. Here they are. Create a crisis. Put in these actors.
Yeah.
Question everything. And just because they say, oh, we're Christian, you got to jump into political parties. You got to be, it's like, right? Is it?
Yeah. And I'm just seeing I think there's a lot of psyops going on within, these Christian groups. And I think people get very upset when I bring it up. I bring up things like Christian nationalism. I think, just the co-option and, capture of several of the various churches, and people get very upset with me. But I see it. I mean, I'm watching it. And
I am too.
And what they don't understand is I'm not attacking Christianity. I'm saying that they're using it to overthrow Christianity. Ultimately, that is the goal. And they're trying to create these movements that will ultimately discredit and create schisms. And I think the sublation is the goal of it. So I just want to, because I have had people really attack me, you're misunderstanding. I'm not trying to attack Christianity at all. I'm saying that I think that's their goal. It's the subversion. So, but did I lose you again? Yes. All right. Well, I guess we should end here since that seems to be where we're at.
There you go. I'm off again.
You're off again.
So, I'm just going to say it. I'm like, this is the truth. And they're using Christianity. They're using Judaism. And, and it's like, there's a difference there. I have no quarrels with the Jewish people. I have a big gripe with the people sitting on the top. I have no quarrel with people who are truly believers and that are Christian. And I'll fry the bad actors in any organization. I don't care what it is. But the ones that are sitting on the top that have infiltrated, that are a bunch of liars, worshiping liars, that have come into Christianity, Judaism, all of everything. They infiltrate everything.
Totally.
We've got to be critically thinking and not just follow and swallow the Kool-Aid in these cults that are out there, because that's what we got.
Exactly. Yep.
So let's pray again. Let's see if we can back to a prayer. This is almost funny.
Yes.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very, very much for your blessings that you've poured upon us. We ask that you would bring truth, and I don't mean all, I mean the pure truth, your pure word, your pure presence with us this day and every day, that you would lead us, that you would guide us, that you would help us in everything that we do from now until you come back, because it's, your kingdom. We're here to serve you in all things, and we love you so very much. Thank you so much for Courtenay, for John, for the beautiful world that you made, and every person. We're here to serve this world, your world, under your terms, not our own. And we're thankful for every good thing that you've given us. And I ask that your continued blessing on
all those people who stand for you, who will stand to protect and defend those without a voice, and who listen to your voice, that still small voice, that always, sometimes the big voice, that always talks to us. If we seek you, we seek, and you will open the doors that we may, in fact, there we go.
Wow. Well,
Okay, it looks like I'm back on. We had to trash the thing a little bit, but I'm here. And I'm just going to say, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your many blessings. Let everyone know how much they're loved and that we're not going to be silenced in your good purposes. Thank you so much for this beautiful day. Everybody out there, I'm going to say, in Jesus' name, we pray. We are thankful and we ask that you continue to bring us all together as one nation under you to defend and protect, and that you would guide us every step of the way, and that all of us would walk in a closer walk with you as you reveal yourself to us in the truth of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, who came to take the punishment for anything that we've ever done wrong so that we could be with you forever. We're so thankful. And we love you very much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. There, we got it in. And screw the internet. So there you go. So, and Courtney said that she tried calling back again and they wouldn't even let our phones connect. They wouldn't even let our phones connect, let alone knock this out. When we brought back arcforum.com, watch, they're going to take it down again. It's going to be great. And it's like, keep trying. We're going to just keep coming back. Doesn't matter. We're not discouraged. You're just giving us rocket fuel. So with that said, God bless you. God bless all those whom you live in. God bless America. Make it a great day. It's a choice. When they come at you, when the world comes at you, you just get back up and you run right into that fire even harder. Now, that doesn't mean to do anything stupid. It doesn't mean to go in and with the guns blazing, with the torches and pitchforks and all that kind of nonsense. It means you get in there and you love harder. You try harder. You get in the game, you play the game with all your might and in every way, and you refuse to let them put you down. And that's where we all come together, and we're going to stand for God under all situations. And guess what, guys out there that are trying to take this down, your time is short. Pretty much time is short. This is God's war, and you can keep trying to knock us all down and censor us and silence us. Ain't gonna work. So I hope you all have a great day. I'll be praying for all of you, both the good guys and the bad guys today. And we will see you on tomorrow with Liberty Essentials. And I have Liberty Essentials on tomorrow. And Ian Smith, the gym owner that closed his gym down to try to support, and Holly and Alexa Adi in their event that's coming up. So please go and join. They really need you to sign up today. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.